Hi, I'm Brian Boggs from the Leading Minds Academy. Today I'm joined by Steve Bock. Now, Steve's an interesting man. Not only is he a real estate salesman, but he's the 61st Australian to climb Mt Everest. Talk about getting out of your comfort zone and overcoming challenges. Well, Steve's going to share all of that with us and more. And the challenges that he overcame and he brought back to his business.
Well, g'day. Today's Tuesday the 18th and today's D-Day. Tomorrow we leave at 3 AM to make our summit bid. So keeping focused, ready to give it the best shot of my life. I've experienced some hard things in my life, but I've got no doubt that this will be probably the hardest.
Our next guest is Stephen Bock. Steve, welcome to the studio.
Thanks very much, Brian.
Now, Steve, this is going to be really a lot of fun for our viewers. I understand you're selling real estate in Manly, New South Wales.
That's right.
And you're an exceptionally successful real estate salesman. So every day you've got to suit up and you've got to go out and sell property. That's really challenging, huh?
Well, lately it is, absolutely. Has its moments, yeah.
But it's not the biggest challenge in your life, is it?
I've had a few. Yeah, I've had a few that have been bigger. Yeah. Okay.
I understand you are the 61st Australian to summit Mt Everest.
That's right.
That must have been amazing. What do you do? Just wake up one morning and said, I think I'll go and climb Mt Everest?
No, look, you know, Everest had been a big part of my life, Brian, for, you know, it's been a written goal of mine since my teenage years. Fair to say it was something that wasn't negotiable in my life. But yeah, I'm a realtor day to day. The opportunity came up at a time in my life where I thought it probably wasn't the right time. You know, I was out of shape. I'd been through some experiences in my life that you know, took me off the path of climbing and off the path of being where I needed to fitness-wise.
Yep.
In fact, I weighed 20 kilos more than I weigh today.
Wow.
When the opportunity came up. I had some climbing experience. I've climbed before in the Andes particularly, but I hadn't climbed for 10 years when the door opened. And rightly or wrongly, in 2009 when that door opened, it was just one of those defining moments where you just grab it and say, that's my opportunity, that's my time. Yeah. And
but this had all come down from, you'd actually written this down in your bucket list, if you like, on that
look,
one of life's goals.
I've since, look, I've wanted to climb Everest since I was in primary school, but literally, I mean, I've been keeping written goals, Brian, since I've been 16, 17. It's been a written goal of mine to do it by the age of 40. On those lists since then, and so I'm a big believer obviously in a number of those things in terms of goal setting and setting plans around what those goals are. But I don't think anyone goes to a mountain like Everest without it having been a big part of their life for a long time. I think, well, look, you do see people, I guess, that go there, but there's quite a big washout rate of people that go to the mountain. I think a lot of that's about people that probably shouldn't be there. And obviously there's a relatively high mortality rate as well, so it's not a place that you want to go and I've just woken up one day and think I'm going to go and climb the highest mountain in the world, you know.
No, I didn't mean to be so trivial with it. I'm sure there's a lot of preparation that goes into doing something like that, including dropping like 20 kilos and getting super fit, and there's the financial aspect of it as well. It's not cheap, is it?
No, look, you can pay anywhere between $50,000 and $80,000 to get onto a team. we were quite fortunate. It cost us a lot of money, but we were the team. It wasn't, so it's different to being a commercial client that's just paying to join a team. But yeah, it's a massive investment on a whole host of different levels.
Yeah. And what was it like? What was it like to summit?
Look, you know, Brian, it's a question that always comes out, and when I talk to people, and life-changing would be the best words I could use to describe it. Every aspect of my life has changed, and it was not so much about that bit of real estate at over 29,000 feet, a lot about the metamorphosis, if you like, of who you've got to become to get onto the mountain, what you need to endure to survive, to get through that process, and of course actually make it to the summit. So yeah, completely life-changing. I mean, when you're sitting there, you certainly know you're in the highest point in the planet, that's for sure.
My word.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, it is the optimum pinnacle of success. You know, everyone uses, you know, that's my Everest. But you're using this to go on to other things as well. What are some of the lessons that you've learned that you've applied back into your business life?
Yeah, look, I mean, on reflection, Brian, it was the best business development course I've ever done in my life, and I've done a few, but, and if you had have said that to me before going to the mountain, I would have thought you had rocks in your head, but because I was what I call summit focused or just outcome focused. Those key lessons, it's really the basics that we understand in life and in business, but they're exponential. And so what I mean by that is goal setting, you know, and so, as I said, it's been a written goal of mine for a long time. We had to set goals around the training cycle, and so there was an 11-month, very intensive training cycle to get through, and I was the fat bugger in the team, so I had to work a little bit harder probably than most. Ownership on the outcome in line with goal setting. So again, we understand that. We emotionalise the goal, take ownership of the goal. But what I learnt with Everest was that when you actually do grab something and you actually own it, failure is not an option. It actually isn't an option. And the thing with Everest was that there was this constant battle, this constant head game going on to keep at bay any chinks in the armour, any negativity, any rationalisation as to why I wouldn't be able to do it, etc.
What are these, the voices in the head?
The voices, you know, the negative voices in the head. You know, being in real estate and having a profile in real estate, I had a lot of commentary about like, what am I doing, and there's no way he's going to make it, and X, Y, Z, and I think I use that to fuel me even more so, but you've got to make sure that you insulate yourself from that. So there's a couple of key things: goal setting, ownership on the outcome, you know, working a plan. You know, I think that we understand it again in business, but you know, so we broke the training cycle down. When you get to the mountain, we're very lucky with the training. We had Joe Bonington, who was Sir Chris Bonington's son, as the official Australian coach. We actually put, Brian, 5 Australians onto the top, which is the biggest ever Australian group that's succeeded in one hit, so ever in the history of Australians climbing the mountain. And I think a big part of that was we had Joe, that's an expert, that just gave us this blueprint for training. And so there's a plan around that to, you know, mini goal setting along the way with it. A very specific plan that we were focusing on and following on the hill. It's a big issue around that. The next key step for me was, and it relates entirely to business, and I've known it before in my real estate world in terms of keeping my energy levels where they need to be, but nutrition and keeping your headspace where it needs to be was a big part of it. I mean, I was getting up at 4 a.m. We were training 2 to 3 hours before I'd go to work at 7 every day or most days. My business day starts in the office at 7. I finish at 8 or 9 most nights, 6 days a week. And then we'd have a second session once a week, which was a fitness test. And Sundays, which is my day off, became our 50, 60 kilometre trudge with a 20 kilo pack on our back.
Of course it did. Of course. So you do the things that you have to do.
You do. Yeah,
you just do those things that you have to do, and don't accept failure. And of course, the huge physical obstacles, apart from the mental ones. The people that'll be watching this, Steve, is an audience made up mainly of financial advisors and accountants and things like that. And they're facing huge challenges right now, legislative changes that are being thrust upon them. And part of it is a mind game. Part of it is saying, well, this is yet another wall that's been put up in front of me, and how do I tackle that? And it sounds like this is the sort of thing that you've been able to overcome very successfully.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that ownership on the outcome is when you really, truly, we understand it, we rationalise it, people tell us it, but when you actually don't allow failure as an option.
Not an option.
It just isn't. It just isn't an option. What I've found, and again I've heard this, we've all heard it, there's no rocket science to it, but your mind will find, opportunities will be created, paths will open up, and you might think I'm going down in that direction, and I'm quite goal orientated, and I know what the path is, etc. But if you place your headspace into that zone, there will be a door that opens over here, and I think the issue becomes when your mind is in that zone, you'll see that door, and you'll grab it, and you'll come back to where you need to get to. So I call it peak state, but you know, I'll share something with you, which I think, because you know, I obviously travel around a lot speaking to groups, and I say to people, look, I'm a normal guy, you know, I realtor, throw my suit on, grab my mobile phone, I've got the same challenges that everyone's got on a day-to-day basis. What was quite life-changing for me was to break the climb down very simply, there's a rotations phase we spend, so it's a 60-day climb, 3 months door to door from home, 60 days on the hill climbing up. And it's broken into a rotations phase of about 6 weeks. You're taking yourself from base camp, working increasing altitudes up the mountain, coming back down and acclimatising the body.
Yeah.
You then come off the mountain for a period of about 4 or 5 days to rest. You drop we dropped about 1,000 metres, and then you come back for the summit bid. And the summit bid's like a 6-day back-to-back marathon. The washout rate's about 75%. Now these are people who've trained, spent 50, 60, 80k to get there. It's been a life's ambition in the main for most people to get there. And the vast majority won't even last really long enough to, and today 1 in 15 die that go for the summit.
Wow.
And when we came off and we rested, so we went down and there was not as many people around, you know, it was 6 weeks down the track, we'd been away from home, and I met all these people, male, female, corporate, professional athletes, a whole mix of people. And Brian, when you looked in their eye and when you spoke to them, there was a glint that they absolutely all owned the outcome.
They had the eye of the tiger.
Absolutely. You know, it was really eye-opening for me, Brian, because look, when I first went when I arrived there, you know, you meet professional athletes, professional climbers, people younger, seemingly fitter. I mean, we're all very fit to get onto the mountain, but you know, quite intimidating. Who am I? I'm this real estate bloke from Sydney, and but absolutely, when I met those people, they all owned the outcome, absolutely. But I'll tell you an interesting thing, because the media is a big one for this. When you come back and there's a lot of dialogue around, congratulations, you've conquered the mountain or whatever, and the thing you learn on a big peak, and she spoke to me very clearly when I was high up on her slopes, and the mountain.
The mountain was speaking to you.
Chudmalama, yeah, Mother Goddess. And when you're high up on the slopes, and I had a few interesting challenges, you know, I think we all had experiences that were obviously, you know, somewhat life-threatening.
Yeah.
You have this incredible understanding of yourself and confidence about what you can do and what's in the tank, what we as people, and so when I'm talking to people, I try and connect with people on that level about It's not about where you've come from, what you have inside, well beyond whatever you've set up as what that pain threshold is, or that comfort barrier is just take the goalposts and run. Seriously.
Have a go.
Have a go. But the other thing on the mountain was that I understood she was letting me up. I understood she was letting me up.
How do you explain that to me?
Yeah, so there was no doubt in my mind, and it's obviously not a big community. People I've spoken to have been fortunate enough to summit her, have all shared the same story, that there's this sense of, for whatever reason, for me personally, I believe that my intent was pure, my spirit, my heart, my reasons for being there were pure.
Yep.
It's a life's journey, but you understand that you're not imposing your will on her, but whilst you've got this incredible reserve and what you can do, and I wasn't going to stop. The zone I was in was but there's this flip side, 180 degree of she's actually letting me sneak up. She's chosen me as one of the people that can get up. And so there's this incredible sense, and so for me that journey was about, I'm being taught lessons, I'm learning things here, there's an accountability that I have to take this back into my life and implement it.
Okay. Because just getting back off the mountain, I understand, is dangerous as well.
Yeah.
So all the focus is getting there, getting to the summit, but you've got to have something left in the tank to get back down, to tell the story.
So most people who will perish on the way down, and the reason being is that you have to go so far beyond any reference point that you've ever had as a physical or mental limit in your life to even get close to the summit. And so what happens is you're in this grey space, which is this, as I said, this phenomenal, amazing grey space that we as humans have across the board. But there is an end point. There is a point that you're too far gone and you're going to die. And so one of the things that you can't train for on her is you're seeing death. You know, unfortunately, you're seeing people that didn't make it, or that they're not in a great way. And
these bodies are still there. Yeah,
and you can't train for that. You know, you can't. I knew that we would. That you're going to see that, and for me, I'll share a story with you. You know, and these are experiences that people would have that would then end their expedition for them. But we were one day from summit bid launch. We were back up on the mountain. We'd done our rotations. We're good to go. We'd got this weather window, green light, and there's only a limited 3-4 days a year, 5 days a year that you can summit the mountain, because the sheer height, she's in the jet stream most of the year. And that breakfast, we've got these new Eurocopters, I think they can get a little bit higher, so they can fly into Camp 2 now. They can't land, but ferrying these dead bodies out, just swinging in the breeze under the helicopters, straight out over base camp and out. And so you're having breakfast, and you look up, and there's just these bodies continually, as helicopters at work, getting the dead bodies off the mountain, and that's tough. It's tough.
Could be me.
Big challenge for me was, as you know, I've got a daughter. Georgia's 9 now, and Georgia was the hardest part of the expedition. But I'll share one other business thing that was very relevant, for a life thing that was very relevant as well. I learned, and I'll take it back to training for a second. We were fortunate to have Joe Bonington as our coach, and
was he I understand coach, but was he like a mentor as well? Did he have other mentors?
We had some. So he was involved in some of the sports psychology, the psych issues, sports psychology issues around as well, to keep our heads where they needed to be. But my first meeting with Joe, I sat down with Joe, and I'm this pudgy bloody real estate agent, but I own the outcome. I obviously had the twinkle in my eye, I guess. And I said, talk to me about the training. What's the seal? Help me understand this next 11 months of my life. And he said, well, Steve, and this is the whole team, I'll never forget. He said, I'm going to push you till you're vomiting, and then the training's going to start.
Sounds like fun.
And it's like, what? I signed up for the wrong thing, etc. But it actually was. So so it was about pushing to breaking point, sometimes vomiting, but where that absolute pain threshold is, and then giving it some. And that was every session. And so it's a whole paradigm shift to what I understood to be training, because we're taught to train until it starts to hurt a little bit, and then we back off, and that's if we're training anyway.
So Steve, with the training, and I get it, you've got to be fit, you've got to prepare mentally. There's the whole psych thing. You've got to get rid of those voices in the head that are saying you can't do this. You've got to get rid of that. I understand you've got to be physically fit, but then you've got mentors and people to guide you as well. How did you then take that training regime back to your business world?
So the thing I learnt was that Joe Bonington was training our minds on our bodies.
Okay.
He was training our minds on our bodies. And I actually said to him when I came back, I said, "You sneaky bugger." I said, "I worked out what you were doing now." Because when you push to vomit point, I'll call it, but there's nothing left in the tank, and you smash through it, and that's every session. And so when you get onto the mountain and you're hitting your wall every day, when you're at 27, 28,000 feet, we had minus 50 static, minus 50 on summit day. You're hitting your wall continually, and there's a sense of, okay, I've been here, smashed through it. There's another step in the tank. I can get one more step out. And so when I bring it back to my business world, what it's meant for me is, and specific to real estate, because obviously I've been training agents for years as part of what I do, and role playing, and agents hate role playing. Role playing, oh shit, sort of, and I've always been about the stuff that's real, the stuff that we're going to use in the field. We're going to train on that here, and we're going to throw.
Because it's a tough market right now, anyway, isn't it?
Look, we've had a really tough market. We've had a massive softening. We've had a lot of we have bargain hunter sentiment, a lot of negative media out there. We've got agents leaving the business in their droves. I'll share with you. It's
interesting. Real estate agents leaving.
Oh, and look, last year it was supposedly there was more agents that left the business last year than in the history of them tracking that information. I mean, it's just.
And you're very successful. You're selling over one property a week.
Look, yeah, I've had at the end of last year, in fact, to be honest with you, I actually got caught up a little bit into the whole negative thing, and my energy level dropped a little bit, and you can be very careful. The minute you open that door, just the smallest bit in your mind, you start to rationalise. You'll be able to come up with a million reasons why you can't do something, and you'll justify it to yourself quite easily. And so I got caught up in that world, started not to sell properties, and I normally sell a property a week typically. That's just what I do personally, and. It was end of last year, and I thought, this is nonsense. It's just the market. It goes up, it goes down, it does its thing. But I actually will dictate the outcome.
Now that's what I love.
Yeah,
that's what I love, because the challenge that advisors are facing right now, it's a regulatory change. They have to, for the first time, disclose fees. I don't see that as an insurmountable mountain. They've got to act in the client's best interests. Not very challenging. They've always been doing that. So again, they need to stop listening to those voices of self-doubt. They're there for the long haul. You're here for the long haul.
Look, I think part of it, so again, just to share that little bit about what I went through at the end of last year, was that I said, Stephen, back to basics, hunker down, remove the negativity, insulate yourself from anything that's not helpful towards the outcome that you want to achieve. I started getting up a bit earlier again, so I'm back to getting up at 4:30 and getting into the training, and that's not for everyone, but for me, that works. I was getting back into what I call my Everest mindset, and nothing else has changed besides what I've changed for myself. And yeah, since 1st of January, I've sold 17 properties, and it's probably about 16, 17 weeks or something. So, so that for me just reinforces that, that stuff is a lot more relevant. I'll tell you something else I think it's very relevant for business people. I spoke about we can justify things quite quickly. We don't like to be out of our comfort zone as people, business people, people in general. We hate being outside of our comfort zone. We love familiarity, we love routine. And so we got really uncomfortable on the Everest journey.
Sure.
The training, we're just very uncomfortable all the time. And on the hill, you're really uncomfortable. And so you learn to adapt, to be flexible, to deal with whatever it is that you're dealing with. Just deal with it, get over it. Because, on Everest, I'll give you an example. We were high on the mountain. I ran out of oxygen, and I've shared this people with groups before. So put you in the picture, summit morning, so it's night time. We're on the 6-day back-to-back window. We're within a 36-hour non-stop period, above Camp 4, the death zone, and it's night time, it's minus 50, plus the winds humping.
Challenging.
You've got 3K drop-offs all around you, and so just put yourself in that space. And you're taking a step, and it's 15, 16 seconds of breaths to get the next step out, and you're at the red line. Everything's redlining.
Wow.
And I ran out of oxygen, to cut a long story short, and what was happening is in between each step, all of a sudden, and this was midnight or something like that, something was trying to make me unconscious. Something was trying to make me unconscious, and in a nasty sense. This wasn't a fatigue thing, this was something's trying to take me upstairs. And so contingency planning and etc. and whatever, and of course there you realise in that environment you can't sit down, you can't pull over the side of the road, you can't go and grab a coffee with your mate and talk about how bad that situation is. Right. You've just got to have already forethought what you're doing and do it, and I did, and obviously I'm here to talk about it, but in a business sense, just get over it and deal with it. Like, it's things are going to change, but man up, as I would say. But because what we think are challenges, and this is the bit I was saying that's confronting in my life, Brian. I've come back, and as I said, I say very openly, I've realised I've been a big bloody wimp most of my life because, right. And I've achieved a reasonable measure of what would be considered a reasonable measure of success in my industry, but these aren't challenges we're seeing. They're not challenges.
No, molehills by comparison.
No,
no. Not insurmountable. Now, Steve, you've taken this experience, and again, you're doing something that a lot of people find very, very challenging, which is talking in front of a group of people.
Sure.
A lot of people are terrified by that, but you're out on the speaking circuit now. You're telling your story.
I am.
And people that may be watching this, they can have a look at a promo video that we've got here of Steve actually going up onto the mountain, and the website and phone numbers for Steve will be here as well, because that's all exciting stuff, and I encourage people to have a look at that. What's the name of the video again? The 60? So number 61. Number 61.
Yeah. So the thing I enjoy about it, Brian, look, public speaking for me wasn't on the radar screen. Again, I'm a realtor and do some adventure stuff, and it's just this whole new business, new world has opened up since I've come back. And the thing I've really enjoyed about it, it's really rewarding, is that, as I said, I'm a normal guy. I've got the same challenges, same issues that we've all got, and frankly, if I can get to 29,000 feet, then most people can really go out there and achieve whatever they want.
Achieve their goals in life.
Yeah, and so it's not about Everest. It's about just hoping and connecting and sharing with people those key things that I went through, and changes and things that I needed to evolve with, that got me to the summit. And I said, none of it's rocket science, but I think at times we need. The thing I've found from speaking, Brian, is that people come up to me sometimes, and quite emotional, because we all have our own Everests in life, as I call it, and because most people don't want to go and climb Mount Everest, but you know what? When you're home alone at night or whatever it may be, you've got those things, and most people have tucked them away. Most people have found the reasons why they can't go and do something. They've rationalised it. They've built the calluses up, the big walls between that thought, which is somewhere in their mind, and who they are. and they dwell upon it often when they're at their quietest moments. And so for me, if I can just fracture those calluses a little bit, if I can just get people to open up and awaken themselves to truly what we can achieve.
Anything's possible.
Absolutely.
Steve, I really encourage people to go and buy that DVD, number 61. You'll get the details here. You're a very generous man, very generous with your time, and an inspiration to every salesperson out there. Stephen Bock.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
60 days, 29,000 feet, minus 40, 50 degrees, lots of challenge, lots of growth. I think the one bit of advice I'd give coming out of this experience is that, you know, anything that you want to achieve, no matter what your Everest is, you hang on to it hard. I've had this goal for 25 years. I've had lots of distraction. I've had lots of people that, whether consciously or subconsciously, I guess they tell you not to aspire to too much, not to dream too big of goals. I can tell you from this experience, don't ever let go of your goal. You hang on to it hard. I'm a pretty average bloke, but just living some big dreams and hanging on to them hard. And most important thing I think coming out of this is you believe in yourself. Just doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, you believe in yourself.